Hi, I'm Maria Martinez with A-dec, and today we're going to be going through how to use, set up, and adjust your A-dec 300 Pro with a CP5i. Before diving into operating or using your equipment, please make sure your system is on and you have water in your water bottle. In this case, this system is already on and I do have water in my water bottle, but before you get going, you would just fill your water bottle, add an A-dec ICX tablet, and that just helps treat the water so that you know that your patients are getting safe, clean water. Then you're going to turn on your system. In this case, it's already turned on. We call this the master toggle. This is what turns off and on the system here on the side. So first we're going to dive into a little bit of the basics here and what we call certain components. So here we have our delivery system head. You have your tray holder, you have your handle and air brake, your CP5i touchpad, and then we call these our whips. So these are your handpiece whips. So when you pull these out, they actually activate so that that position knows that it's active and ready to go. This is your A-dec syringe, so it's a 3-way syringe. It provides air, water, or a combination of both if both buttons are pressed down. And then you have a couple of handpieces here you'll see, so electric handpieces. We have a low speed and a scaler here. So first we're gonna dive into a little bit of the adjustments that you would do for some of your handpieces. On this first one, this is an electric, but in this case I'd be using air and water. So what I'm gonna do is using my foot control, I'm just gonna start it. So in this case, it's just running, there is no water. To turn on water, I can either use my touchpad. So when I pull my position, it automatically goes to this page. And then I go to this little bullseye, which is what helps me adjust. And it'll show me which buttons are active that I can press with the backlight blue here. It looks like my water icon is filled in, so that means water is active. So when I do adjustments, the foot control runs it, but I'm getting a little bit of water coming out of there. Now, if I want to adjust the water that comes out and the air that comes out that produces the atomization or that kind of vaporizing you see, I'm actually going to pull the handpiece I want to work with. I'm gonna run it. This is in the first position, so I'm going to go to the first water coolant adjustment knob. So that one is going to adjust the amount of water that's actually coming through the system here. So I'm actually gonna turn it all the way into the almost off position so that there's minimal water coming through. I'm also gonna turn down this drive air so that I'm just getting water. So basically I wanna adjust to the point where I'm just getting a bead of water coming out. So here I have a bead of water that has come out. That feels sufficient to me. And now I can go and adjust my drive air. And so when I adjust this, this is what's actually gonna cause that atomization of water. So it looks like I didn't quite have enough water there. Okay, now I have some water. So it looks like my atomization is right about where I'd like it. And that's how I would do the adjustment. And for each handpiece, you can go through and do that adjustment. So we've seen kind of the handpieces. To talk a little bit more about the adjustment and positioning of your delivery system, in this position, it's held locked by this air brake here on this handle. So when I push that in, I hear a little bit of air come out, and then I know that it's ready. I can move it up and down. And once I release, it's gonna hold that position. Everything else though, so the articulation here is just freestanding, so I can just move this as needed. And then this one, this is our radius adjustment. So here I'm also being able to adjust the delivery system. So some other key parts about this delivery system, I'm gonna show the back. So this is more your maintenance. We have our oil collector here in the back. Your motors actually have a little bit of oil in them or lubricant, right, to keep them running smoothly. So when the air exhausts from that system, because air helps run them, it'll actually exhaust back here. So this just pops right off. There's a little piece of gauze in here that we use basically just to capture any of that oil so it doesn't make a mess. And it also helps dampen some of that air exhaust that you'll hear, so it's a little noise canceling. So this is replaced about every once a week or as it gets soiled with oil, and that just goes right back on. And then back here is your pass-through USB. So this can be powered if needed. So say you have a tabletop scaler or something like that, maybe it's not integrated as it is in this system, you can actually power that back here. So one of the other adjustments you can do related to your touchpad would be your light controls. So on here, I have control of my light if it is attached to your system. And then you also do have control of your chair via these arrows going up and down. and there's a little icon with a seat and a person. So those are your presets that basically tell the chair, so you can pre-program for entry or exit. And those are fairly easy to do. Those are done by just holding down until you hear a noise, and that will set that preset. So now every time I push that button, it'll come back to this same spot. So one of the next portions I want to talk about is a little bit of the chair adjustments and program settings. So I'm not going to go too far into your chair positioning, but these controls here, the up-down arrows, are going to control the height of your chair. And then these diagonal arrows are going to control the backrest of your chair. So if I wanted to preset a position, I would get my chair into its operating position, or say maybe I wanted to do set positions for entry of the patient and exit. Entry would be in a lower position with the backrest up so that they can get in. And then I would go ahead and just hold the button, and a long hold will preset. So now I know that this button here is preset to this exact position. So if I were to go and adjust it a little bit, and then I press this pre-position, it's going to take me back to that position that I initially had it in. As for some of the other adjustments you can do with your handpieces when you are setting them up, so based on what is in each position, you're gonna go through and do some setup. This either might be set up or needs to get done. Here I'm in standard mode, but if I push this little icon with these 3 handpieces on it, it'll actually toggle me over to endo mode. Whether you're doing standard procedures or endodontics, you can switch between those 2 settings, and they just hold different presets and different settings that you can adjust. So here's your RPM and your torque that you can set on endo mode. And when I go back into standard mode, it's just my torque and water setting. So again, this bullseye is what helps me toggle through these items. So I can turn off and on air. And then there's this little arrow that kind of looks like it's turning in a circle. That is going to be controlling which direction your burr is going to spin. So you can also change that. Back to the setup of your handpiece though, you're going to pull out the handpiece you wanted to adjust, go to the 3 dots, this setting icon button. You go down, use these toggles. Again, it's showing this solid color blue, which will tell me which buttons are active. So I want to select equipment, and then I'm going to go down to the delivery system, and I'm going to select that. So then I can go through and adjust what is the holder configuration. So basically I can assign what instrument is in this position, and we call them our position 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it goes across this way, just as your toggles on the side for water control and air control on the side also go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how I would do the adjustment or setup of my handpiece. This is often set, and if you're going to use the same handpiece, you don't need to go in and do those settings again. Now I'm going to put my tool back. To get back to our home page or chair page, I press that little chair icon again, and I'm back at my chair position. All right, next I'm going to dive into the use of your foot control. So your foot control is what drives your handpieces. So as I showed you before, I was pushing on this to adjust some of the air and water that was coming out of here to get my atomization. Imagine a gas pedal on a car. You can kind of what they call feather. So the lighter I push, the less that this is actually going to turn, because it determines the amount of air being pushed through to run my system. So as I showed you earlier on the CP5i, you can either adjust and turn off your water from your CP5i, or the foot control, there's a toggle. I just switch it over the other way. Now I see on my touchpad there is a water droplet that is filled in. That's saying that water is active. So now I have water coming from my system. One of the other things that is nice to know about this system with your foot control is that there is a chip air button, and the reason it's called chip air is because it actually gives a little burst of air just in case there is something on the tooth that you would like to clean off. So you just give that a press. So as long as you press that, air will come through here. So it's not actually running my handpiece, it's just giving me a little bit of air. Now I'm going to dive into handpiece flushing. So at the end of a procedure and after you see a patient, one of the recommended protocols by the CDC is to do a high volume flush, which basically just means that you're going to run water on all of your wet positions so that it's flushed through with new chemistry, and anything that might be in the system gets purged out before you see your next patient. So how that's done on a CP5i. So first I'm going to go to those 3 little adjustment buttons. Once I'm there, you'll see these 3 water droplets, and I'm going to click the button for that one. So now it has these timed presets basically for how long it'll purge water through the system. before doing flushing, you actually need to remove anything that can be removed up to your tubing. So here I would remove up to here, I'd remove here, this handpiece, and so on. So once all of those are removed, I can either hold this over a sink or a bucket, or A-dec actually has a flush dock where you can dock all of your hand pieces and will automatically hold them so that the system can run and purge water through. So in this case, I'm not going to demonstrate, but I would be holding this over something where it could catch effluent water, and I would go ahead and click that button, and I would just stand here and wait for that 30-second or however long it needs to flush as water is captured somewhere. And then I just return these all up to their previous positions. And I can go back to my chair or home screen just by clicking that little icon with the chair that looks like it's in a supine position. Those were just the highlights of your 300 Pro delivery system. If you'd like to learn more, please find the QR code located somewhere on your equipment or visit us at adec.com.